San Francisco papers are investing a lot of money to try and get a service just like that started. Science editor Steve Newman reports on one person already using the brand new system.
This video may contain adult language and situations. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. What is up, my dudes? It's the Reddit Fairy, and I am back yet again with another video. This time I have for you some r/ProRevenge. That's right, it's about to get a little bit vengeful up in this bitch. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and let's get right into it. This one's titled, Make Fun of My Dad? Don't Expect a Birthday. Posted by user ColeSkills99. Disclaimer. Sorry for some bad grammar, I'm on mobile. This story happened in the 6th grade and I thought it would fit good here, so here it is. It was the end of the school day, and this one girl, we'll call her Mean Girl, and my teacher, we'll call her Nice Teacher. This was during the computer cart collection. The convo went like this. Me. Need help with the computers, Nice Teacher? Mean Girl. Go away, kid. Me. You're not my dad. Mean Girl. Well, if I was, I'd... Then she does this handgun thing. So I go and let my teachers know. And I know the comment section is going to blow up about me being a tattletale. Nice Teacher goes over to Mean Girl. Then, crap hits the fan so hard. She gets pulled out, and I can hear her doing a mix of scream crying. Then I let Nice Teacher know there was a witness, Mean Girl's friend. So she takes Mean Girl with her and pulls her out of class. Sorry if I didn't mention this, but my class was a class on how to handle conflict, so Nice Teacher was visibly upset and mad. And as they were heading out, Mean Girl says to her friend, and I can quote, Mean Girl, just say I didn't do anything. And Nice Teacher gets pissed. She calls her parents, and I later hear that her parents canceled her party for the way she acted. So it goes to show what goes around comes around. Thanks for reading my story. I don't know if this really belongs in ProRevenge, really, because, I mean, she just got in trouble. This would be more petty, really, I think. But, yeah, I think this is more petty. This next one's titled, The Story of One Missing Shoe. Posted by user LetsJustStartAgain. This isn't really pro, but I hope it gives some of you a laugh. A few years ago, my now ex mother-in-law came to stay for almost a year when she was in between homes. She'd sold her house and not bought a new one yet. She was the laziest, most self-opinionated cyclops of a woman you could never wish to meet. Just a really horrible negative person with no sense of humor, who was able to suck the enjoyment out of everything. She would constantly leave her shoes behind the utility room door, so whenever I went in there, they'd jam up the door and I'd end up smashing my face on it. I asked her to stop doing it, but she refused. After months of enduring this, I snapped. It was trash day, and as I was filling the trash compactor ready to take out the curb, I decided to put just one of her shoes in it. It went in. Squash, squash, squash. All mangled up and as flat as a kipper. Down to the curbside it went. I waited for the garbage truck to come and collect it just so I could wish it bon voyage as it went its merry way towards the landfill. Fast forward to that evening. I can't find my shoe. Oh. Have you seen it? Nope. Only one is missing, though. How can I possibly lose just one shoe? I don't know. It has to be there somewhere. What followed was about 9 months of total glee. Every time she decided to look everywhere for her shoe, or commented on how puzzling it was that time just one of her shoes went missing. Thank goodness the old bat isn't in my life anymore. Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's definitely petty too. I'm sorry, guys. I started this video off with 2 petty revenge stories that were disguised as pro-revenge, but it still got a chuckle, so I'm not mad. This one's titled 13 Years of Revenge in the Making. Posted by user ItCameFromTheAbyss. This is going to be a very long story, so I hope you've got your soda and popcorn. I also hope it's in the right subreddit. For this story, the cast will be me, obvious, brother, Mark, half-brother, Sam, half-sister, Alicia, mom. All fake names for obvious reasons. Disclaimer. For reasons so you don't have to read my entire life story, there will be time skips throughout the story. Some of it won't make sense, and there may be more questions after it's done, but I'm just condensing this down to bare bones, including the important events and the revenge. The long part is the backstory. Long backstory. My mom is the highest level of a failed parent. When I was 2, my baby brother Mark was born. As a typical 2-year-old, I didn't like that and proceeded to act out in regards to it. As time went on, though, I learned from my grandfather and grandmother that treating someone like that wasn't a good idea, and then turned my act around to love and care for him, and help out where I could. However, this didn't change much. My mother basically threw me away to be raised by my grandparents because I was a demonic hellspawn of a child. In her mind, her new child was latest, greatest, and I was just old news. Let's time skip. My mother has now had her 4 kids. Mark and I with my dad, and Sam and Alicia with my stepfather. I'm about 13, Mark 11, Alicia is about 1.5, and Sam was just born. Mom and dad are divorced. Mom married stepdad, and I am the rebellious age now where things don't make sense to me and I feel like I know everything. So my stepdad's idea is to beat it out of me. Every time I showed any sense of individuality or questioning something, I got beat for it. Sometimes right in front of my mother, and she didn't care a bit. This is where the trigger for me wanting my revenge started. But being 13 and, sadly, a little on the mentally damaged side from all of the beatings, and having a bookcase full of books land on me at around 11, I had no concept of what sort of revenge would come from my mind at the time. So I decided that waiting would be best. Mom's mistake 1 has been made. On top of that, my mother and stepdad refused to do any housework. Instead of waiting for the weekend when Grandma and Grandpa would leave to visit Grandma's mother and put us to work cleaning the house and doing stuff adults should be doing. Now I get the concept of chores. Chores are fine. It's when you make your child climb ladders and get on the roof at age 11 to clean out gutters, or climb trees to snip branches and such that it gets to be a bit too dangerous. This happened since I was about 10. Yes, I know. Things are a little out of order. I'll keep on track. Time skip to when I'm 14. My mother told me and Mark to watch Alicia. She was 2 by this time. Stepdad wanted to play video games, and when we weren't being bad in his eyes, he'd let us watch. But we were never allowed to play without him there watching us. I pop up while I'm sitting there and ask, "Where is Alicia?" Full-blown panic mode, go. Mark and I just up and go, scouring the house. Stepdad goes to check my mom's room where she's sleeping with Sam, who she was up with all night. My dad was in the kitchen making himself something to eat while he was visiting, and then freaked out and had burnt his hand on the stovetop when everyone started freaking out, then started searching. Mark and I ran out back and looked around, saw nothing, didn't even think to check the pool, so we ran back inside and rummaged through the garage. Next thing, we hear my mother screaming at the top of her lungs as we rush outside to find Alicia on the deck not breathing, and my mother and stepdad trying to perform CPR on her. My father drags Mark and I away to go inside, and the ambulance is called. Needless to say, Alicia did not survive, and they pulled the plug on her that night. Mom's mistake, too, has been made. Mark and I were devastated. Being the teenager I was and the preteen he was, we immediately blamed ourselves, and our grandparents assured us that it wasn't our fault or responsibility, and that we need to know that this isn't on us. A week later, Child Protective Services got word and came, and my father, in his infinite wisdom, initiated a custody battle with my mother after this, claiming she wasn't capable of caring for her children and won temporarily. Needless to say, our grandparents believed we belonged with our mother and fought back. My mom ultimately won us back. Time skip. I'm 18 now. I'm an adult. I'm looking to graduate high school and make my mark on the world and get my life going. Mark was 15 now and had gotten into a fight and broke his finger. It had to be repaired with pins and screws and was on some pretty hefty pain medicine. I don't remember the name. It was my mother's job to watch him and regulate his pain medicine so nothing bad would happen. Sadly, that bad thing did happen. Grandfather picked me up from school one day and I could see he had a gloomy look on his face. We showed up to the house, and as we were walking up, I could see the paramedics rolling a stretcher with a body bag on it. Mark had died from a drug overdose at the age of 15 because my mother wasn't watching him like she should have been. That was the final straw. At that moment, my family was divided. My dad's side and my mother's side. My mother had my grandparents, who I was living with at the time, and my father had me and his family. I sided with my father completely, his argument being that she had been a better mother. If she had been a better mother, Mark would still be alive, and what's worse, Sam had been taken away by CPS, Child Protective Services, and put in foster care. My mother was never allowed to raise children again, and I never saw my half-brother ever again. I was now an only child. My mother had destroyed the life I knew with her neglect, so I was going to ruin the rest of her life any way I could. Revenge time. This woman caused the deaths of 2 of my siblings, and I never got to see my living half-sibling again. Abused me mentally, emotionally, physically, took away my childhood, and every time I look at her, I can't help but seethe with unmitigated rage. The first revenge. My grandfather had basically been my best friend. He took me in, cared for me, taught me all sorts of different skills. He had one flaw though. He was too kind for his own good. Something my mother maliciously preyed on after the deaths in the family. My grandmother gave up hope and just diverted to his opinion on everything. So, I made it a point that every time she tried it, I challenged her on it in front of them, made sure she had to fight for what she wanted. I always lost, but I could see my constant meddling would get to her, irritate her. I wanted her to do something. I wanted her to hit me, harm me, give me a single reason. She never went that far, but she did break down crying multiple times. Then I got lucky. She slipped at work, herniated a few of her discs, and messed her back up really badly. When I got the news, I grinned. Around this time, my stepdad had been imprisoned for doctor shopping, and my mother wanted a divorce from him. When she came home from the hospital, I would take her meds and hide them around the house and sometimes even throw them away. I wanted her to be in agony. I wanted her to suffer as much as possible, and she did. A few months later, she got into a car wreck and the police found out she was on a hefty amount of her pain meds. She was charged with a DUI and put in jail for 6 months. I grinned and laughed once I got that news and proceeded on planning my next stage. She was in pain and behind bars. This was perfect. The second revenge. Time skip again. After she got out of jail, we'll skip ahead a few years. She's now living with us. I'm officially in college. I did the stupid thing and took a year off between high school graduation and applying to college. So my grandparents made me a deal. As long as I worked and was in school, I could stay with them for free of charge. Who wouldn't take that deal? While my mother was in jail, I made it a point to shove all her property into storage and made her room my room, and turned my old living space into my gaming room. She had no choice but to sleep on the couch. I enjoyed every moment of her agonizing when she would get up from laying on the couch, agonizing because the metal bars on it would press into her back as she slept. This was my revenge for some time, slow and painful. The third revenge. Time skip. We moved back to the old house we were all living in, and my mother has made her back worse through a series of mistakes and bad decisions. She had somehow convinced my grandparents to start illegally procuring drugs for her. She would make the connection with the dealer, and they would shell out money for her to go get them. I argued with my grandparents to stop. It was illegal, and it will land them all in jail if they get caught. My grandfather agreed, but my grandmother couldn't help but take care of her little girl, and guilted my grandfather into it. I refused to be a part of it. I put in an anonymous tip into local law enforcement, but sadly nothing came of it. My revenge had failed this time, but I didn't know I would get the ultimate screw you in, because it came in the form of my most malicious, vindictive statement ever spoken. Plus, I was still messing with her, hiding her medication. It's childish, but sometimes you have to have a bit of childish to get the point across. The final revenge. I am 31 now. It has been 13 agonizing years since my brother Mark died, and I have finally completed my revenge on my mother. My grandfather just passed last year, and I have been saving a veritable buttload of cash from over the years in jobs I worked, inheritance from other deaths in the family, and so on. I went to visit my grandmother, who's not been in great shape since my grandfather passed, and her dog passed about 6 months after that. My mother comes out to me while we're sitting there talking and asks if I will take care of her after Grandma was gone, that it was my duty as her son. She was broke. My grandmother was going into a retirement home, and my mother blew through her inheritance with her dealings. The rest was going to me. I knew it for a fact. I stood up, and while I stared my mother directly in the eyes, I managed the most hateful, vicious stare I could muster. It wasn't hard, and told her, "You get nothing from me. Grandma's going into a retirement home. I'm moving states. You destroyed my life, took away my childhood, were responsible for the death of my siblings, broke the law numerous times, and you made everyone's lives a living hell. You will be on the street and die alone, and I will laugh. I never loved you, and I never will. You will never see your grandchildren if and when there are any. You will not be at my wedding. You will never be mother to me again. Rot in hell." My grandmother's jaw hit the floor, and my mother burst into tears. I had finally broken her and got my revenge. It may not seem like much to you all, but that moment was heavenly for me. It felt amazing to finally know I've gotten my ultimate revenge after all these years, and damned her to suffering. My grandmother is going into that retirement home in about 3 months, and I'm helping her move her stuff, so there will be no chance of her little girl weaseling her way out of her fate. After that, I'm moving to a new state and starting my new life, and with a new job and wonderful girlfriend who I love more than anything. For those of you who have brothers and sisters, love them, cherish them, and be with them, 'cause you never know what's going to happen. This revenge was born of me losing my siblings, the one thing I loved most in this world. Being an older brother was the happiest time in my life, and after they died and Sam was taken by CPS, I have had to suffer as an only child and still cry to myself to sleep at night over it. It was traumatizing, so please, cherish your siblings. Thank you for reading. Edit. After sitting down and reading again, I have realized that I labeled Sam and Alicia wrong. They are my half-siblings, not my step-siblings. Same mom, different dad. Apologies. Oh boy, that was I mean, it wasn't tough to read because it was badly written. It was just tough to read because, holy shit, poor OP, man. You had to go through some shit. I am going to be giving my brother and sister huge hugs next time I see them after reading this. Oh, my God. I'm so sorry you went through this. This next one's titled, "Oh, did you like your position on the committee? Sorry, it's mine now." Posted by user WaywardOuroboros. I'm new to Reddit. I literally made an account just to tell this story, so I hope that it fits here. I'm sorry it's lengthy, but this has taken place over a number of years. Also, I'm sorry if there's the odd spelling or grammatical error. I'm partially sighted and sometimes I miss them. Names have been changed. TLDR at the bottom. The necessary backstory. My guilty pleasure is karaoke. Me too, my dude. Me too. I love going to local bars when there's karaoke at night on. I have a musical background, and I studied music at Cambridge University, UK, graduating with first-class honors for my bachelor's degree and my master's in music performance. I also trained at the Royal Academy for a while. I specialized in music theory, and I am now a teacher in a local college. I am primarily a classical guitarist, but I am also a grade 8 standard on piano and flute. I am also lucky to be blessed with perfect pitch. I have never studied vocals or ever had any singing lessons, but my musical aptitude and perfect pitch makes me a decent singer and above the average ability of most people who get up to sing at karaoke. I don't go to karaoke to show off or anything. I enjoy listening to everyone, good and bad, and just generally having a laugh with my friends. I met the DJs Kate and Peter, a husband and wife DJ team from the next town over, about 8 years ago when I started going to a weekly karaoke at the local bar, and over time we have become close friends. I follow them to every bar they go to for karaoke, help them out with their company's social media pages, and act as an unofficial tech support. They also occasionally give me some DJ work when they are double booked. However, despite this, I am not an employee of the company. I just like to help out and I do not get paid for my tech work, and I make a flat rate of £100 for each gig they give me. They get the surplus. That is important later. The story. So about 3 years ago, Kate and Peter were booked for a recurring monthly karaoke at a members-only social club in a town about 15 miles away. I already knew a lot of the people who were members there from karaoke at other bars they had come to, specifically a bar which was just up the road from this club. One of these people, Bill, was on the committee for the club. He was a good friend of mine, so I had a chat with him and made sure that although I was not a member at this point, I was okay to come to the karaoke once a month. At the first karaoke night in the club, I met Jane and Robert. I learned that Jane was the entertainment manager on the committee, and Robert was a major narcissist who thought he was Elvis Presley reincarnated with an ego the size of Europe. He only sings Elvis songs and tries to do the dance moves to match. He even has at least 5 full-blown Elvis costumes he wears, even on casual basis. He thought the sun shines out of his arse, was the best singer in the county. He really wasn't. He was really quite bad. And I quickly learned that he instantly disliked anyone who was a better singer than him. He was right up Jane's arse, and she would do anything he said. Initially, they were both nice to me, but after I sang, they would refuse to talk to me despite going out of my way to talk to them every month, and I had never shown any hostility towards them. This went on for a year. Bear in mind that Jane and Robert are in their mid to late 60s. I'm in my early 30s, and it was like dealing with a couple of children. I swear the students I teach are more mature than they'll ever be. In the end, I gave up trying to be nice and salvaged some sort of friendship, and only spoke to them when I had to. Over the course of a year, Robert would instruct Jane to stop certain people singing. He wouldn't allow anyone else to sing Elvis songs. There's hundreds on the hard drive, for fuck's sakes. And even tried to get people banned from the karaoke and the club. They had a major falling out with my friend Bill. He sang an Elvis song without Robert's permission, which was escalated to the head of the committee. but no action taken as there was lack of evidence, despite several witness statements in Bill's favor. At this point, they had never done anything like this towards me, so I wouldn't get involved in any of the disputes. They really pissed a lot of people off, but there wasn't much that could be done about it as the committee would always say there was a lack of evidence. Suddenly, the karaoke stopped. Jane didn't rebook Peter and Kate. We later learned that Robert was moaning to Jane over the Bill incident and demanded that the karaoke stopped. At this point, I had made many friends at the club and had also started going to their monthly quiz nights, so I had decided to become a full-paying member. I am a helpful and kind person by nature, and I am always more than happy to give my input if I can help. I got involved in the quizzes. I even wrote and ran a few, for free, and passed on details of my musical connections for when they wanted live music, which was at a reduced rate for the club as the booking had essentially come through me for my friends and connections. I helped to update their till systems, install Wi-Fi, made posters, and helped promote events at the club on the internet and social media, all for free. The management loved me. Everyone was disappointed at the karaoke being canceled, as it was always busy and everyone had a great time despite Jane and Robert. It took us a few weeks to find out the truth on why it had been canceled, and there was a minor uproar which I did get involved in. However, Jane stood her ground and nothing could be done because she was the entertainment manager, so the buck stopped with her. Around 6 months later, Jane decided to start the karaoke nights again. I assume Robert was fed up of not being able to show off and booked Kate and Peter again for the following month. Everyone was happy as the karaoke was always popular, brought in new members and good revenue for the club. So the karaoke night rolls around, and by the end of the night I realized that my last 2 turns were skipped and Robert sang the most songs. Suspecting something fishy, the next day I went round to Kate and Peter's house for coffee to find out what, if anything, had happened. Lo and behold, my suspicions were right. Kate told me about halfway through the night, Jane had approached them and said, "Can you not let WaywardOuroboros sing anymore? She's really annoying everyone and we don't want professional singers putting people off and she's making people leave." I was pissed. I wasn't angry at Kate and Peter. They had to comply with what Jane said because she had threatened non-payment and no more work there if they didn't. They did what they had to do. After being a regular at this club, a full-paying member for nearly a year, and all of the work I had put into helping the place for free, I couldn't believe their audacity, and I was annoyed that they couldn't even say it to my face. So the next day, I went to the club knowing Jane would be there in order to confront her. I hate confrontation, and I'm usually pretty easygoing, but I wasn't going to be singled out and lied about, and I've always been the type of person that if you've got something to say or a problem with me, come and talk to me and we'll try to figure it out. I really can't stand being talked about behind my back. Before talking to Jane, I went and spoke to a few of my friends who were there. I needed to know if they had thought or said I was annoying them with my presence at the karaoke, and if any of them had said anything to Jane or Robert before I confronted to her, so I could get my facts straight. They were shocked, and I learned that the only one bitching about me was Robert. It seemed that I was next on his hit list, so I approached Jane. This is how the conversation went down to the best of my memory. Me: "Hi Jane, can I talk to you for a minute?" Jane: "Ugh, I guess so, but I'm very busy." Me: "I just want to know why you and Robert stopped me from singing at the karaoke the other night." Jane: "Everyone was getting annoyed with you, and we don't want professional singers at the karaoke, and it's not fair anyway because you work for Kate and Peter." Me: "But I'm not a professional singer, Jane. As you know, I'm a guitarist, and I'm a teacher. I have never made a living from singing, nor have I ever been employed by Kate and Peter. I spoke to everyone, and no one else was annoyed with me. It was literally just Robert. No one left because of me either." Jane: "That's all lies. You're just being an entitled brat." Me: You think that I'm the entitled one? Are you saying that I don't know what my own job is and that everyone else here is a liar too? Jane, you should know that you're not welcome here. No one likes you. You should just leave and stay away. I'm going to talk to management and get you banned. Me, okay, Jane, you do that. This is obviously a lost cause and fruitless conversation. Jane, you are the lost cause. All you've done is upset people since you came here. At this point, I left, more pissed off than I was before, and started plotting my revenge. Thankfully, I wasn't banned because I was on good terms with the management after all the work I had done for them. I knew my plan would take time to pull off, and this may seem like a really petty reason for revenge to you, but nearly everyone at the club had suffered at the hands of Jane and Robert at some point, some worse than me, and in my opinion, they needed to get their comeuppance. They needed to know that the club did not revolve around them, and that they can't treat people this way. I doubted anyone else would go up against them. I was willing to be in it until the bitter end, and I got away way more than what I had hoped for. The revenge. I started going to the club more regularly than before. I needed to make friends with everyone for my end move, and people love to talk and gossip. I wanted all the dirt on Jane and Robert that I could get my hands on. I heard rumors that Robert was acting as an unlicensed agent for bands and singers, that Jane was in on it, and they were both taking a cut from the money that the band was being paid by the club to perform. This is very morally wrong and most likely illegal, but if it was true, this was huge. Over the course of 10 months or so, I set up multiple sting operations using my contacts in music circles to gather evidence of this. It turned out that these rumors were indeed true. Jane would tell the club that the band was charging £250, but pay them £200, keeping £50 for herself, and then Robert would charge them £50 agent's fee for the gig. After some digging online, I found out Robert had even set up a fake agency company in order to look legit. I invested a hidden spy camera, asked my friends to record their meetings with Robert and Jane, as well as record all phone calls and to forward all emails sent between them. In the end, I had a big ring binder full of evidence of this shady operation. They were booking performers 3 times a week. Bear in mind that events such as Christmas and New Year's, they charged upwards of £500 per band. And Jane had been entertainment manager for 20 years at this point, with Robert as her right-hand man. That's at least £150 a week, if not more. I estimated they made roughly £2,000 a year from this. So over 20 years, that's at least £40,000 of undeclared income. I also went around my friends at the club that had suffered injustice at the hands of Jane and Robert. In total, I gathered 12 statements and over 50 signatures on a petition I created to remove Jane from her position as an entertainment manager and to remove all of Robert's influence over the entertainment bookings. It was finally time to put my plan into action. I went straight to the committee head with the statements, petition, and the evidence of their fake agency scam that I had gathered. He took the file and went through it that evening, although I wasn't sure if he was on Jane and Robert's side. I had 3 encrypted digital copies in various places, just in case he destroyed it. He called me the next day, and I was requested to be at the next committee meeting in 2 weeks' time as an independent witness, where they would confront Jane and Robert on their actions, and also if I could give a copy of my evidence to the management. With pleasure. The day of the committee meeting came, and it was glorious. At first, they both denied everything, but when faced with hard evidence I gathered, they knew they couldn't get out of it. Upon seeing the statements and petition, Jane broke down and cried. Robert looked deflated and defeated. The committee voted unanimously, not just to remove Jane from her position as entertainment manager, they voted to remove her from the committee altogether. The committee had told them that they would be seeking legal advice to try and recover the money they stole from the club, and to find out whether they could press charges against them for the theft and fraud. As a final kick to the teeth, the management decided to revoke their memberships and banned both Jane and Robert from the club premises permanently and indefinitely. My hard work over 10 months paid off in spades, and within an hour, I had brought their world crashing down around them. I'm normally a really empathetic person, but they brought this on themselves, and I have no shred of sympathy at all. But I wasn't done. I also took my evidence of the fake agency scam and, along with the management and committee of the club, reported both of them to the tax office for undeclared income and the police for fraud. It took them a good few months to investigate, and it also transpired that Robert was regularly traveling abroad to Europe, buying copious amounts of tobacco, cigarettes, and alcohol, and smuggling them back into the country, failing to pay the duty tax, and selling them for a profit. The club were able to press charges against Jane and Robert for theft and fraud, and sue them for the money they stole by skimming from the band fees. The tax office also took them to court for undeclared income, unpaid income tax, and in Robert's case, unpaid duty tax and unlawful sale of restricted goods. They were found guilty of all charges, each sentenced to suspended jail time and ordered to repay the unpaid tax on their undeclared income, the unpaid duty, and repay the club the money they stole, as well as over £1,000 in compensation. The last I heard, they both had been declared bankrupt and had their cars, houses, and other valuables repossessed by the court to be auctioned off to pay back the money they owe. Finally, when I said I needed to make friends with pretty much everyone at the club for my end move, we just had the committee elections a couple of months ago, and I was elected as the entertainment manager with 96% of the vote. I am loving my new role, and everyone is happy with the bands I am booking and the entertainment I have put in place so far. I also have a monthly discussion meeting with any members who want to turn up and ask for their input and suggestions, and what they want to have going on at the club, something which never happened under Jane and Robert's dictatorship. TLDR was a regular at karaoke nights at a local social club stuck in their ways. Bitch entertainment manager and her narcissist sidekick stopped me from singing and tried to ban me for no reason. I became a full member of the club, discovered they had a fake agency scam running, and were stealing from the club by skimming the fees from the bands they booked. I collected evidence and started a petition to get rid of them, which I presented to club management and committee. They were banned from the club, prosecuted for theft and fraud, made to pay back all of the money they stole. The court claimed their houses, cars, and valuables, and declared them bankrupt. Edit. Holy cow, thank you for the Platinum Award. I have other ProRevenge stories, not just about Robert and Jane, so I will definitely post up some more when I have time. As said, I'm an easygoing person, but can't stand people or myself being wronged. Whew. Oh my goodness, OP, that was a good read. Damn, you got them good. Oh, I hate people like that, and I've actually encountered people like that in my trips to karaoke, because I love karaoke. The thing I don't like about karaoke is waiting my turn, so I usually sing karaoke on an app instead of going to a bar now. That, and I don't drink, so I don't really like going to bars in the first place, so nothing against people that do drink, I just don't like the taste myself, so. But OP, yes, I am definitely going to be keeping an eye out for your other stories because that was good. And the last story of the day is called Ex-Girlfriend Shafted Me Out of Hundreds. I took her to court and reported her for tax fraud, leaving her liable for thousands. Posted by user drgeorgeb. Last year, I lived with my then-girlfriend. This turned out to be a huge mistake. Soon after moving in, it became clear that she expected me to cover her rent from time to time. As she was between jobs, I let this slide, expecting to be paid back in due course. It was a similar story with household bills. While she paid her share to begin with, she eventually refused to contribute. I asked her if she could just open an overdraft with her bank till she got more work, which would have been free of charge, but she refused. Within the first few months of living together, she got quite a bit behind on rent and bills. When she finally got a job, she began to catch up on arrears, but was always reluctant to pay. I thought she might be reluctant because I left her with a little money, which would be fair enough. But things continued this way even after she got a better job. When she refused to pay rent one month, I explained that this wasn't fair and insisted she pay up. After considerable outbursts, she paid, but not without making it clear that this wasn't what she wanted to do. During this argument, I was in a different town working, and a few days later, she let me know that she'd moved out and broken up with me. I was upset with the breakup and further upset that she insisted she didn't still owe me rent or bills, which left me in dire financial position. To cut a long story short, she realized her mistake and came back a few weeks later, but with a renewed conviction that she didn't owe me anything because her returning was payment enough. The next few months consisted of her threatening to leave at multiple points for not supporting her enough, despite me buying most of our food, letting her pay late, and bringing her lunch every day. She even repeatedly threatened to kill me one night after coming home drunk. I thought this was especially rude considering I'd stayed up late to make sure that she got home safe. Other notable events were her and her mother having a deep discussion on how to leave me high and dry on rent. Her mother was a classy lady, and her getting verbally abusive that I wouldn't drop her name from the tenancy agreement. Must have thought I was stupid. Needless to say, the relationship wasn't meant to be and didn't last into the new year. Ex-girlfriend ended it. She eventually moved home, but agreed to meet her obligations and pay her remaining half of the rent. Sometime after this had boiled over, I met a fantastic girl and we eventually got together. Happy days, I thought. Not quite. Ex-girlfriend discovered I had met someone else and absolutely lost her shit, calling me all names under the sun, calling me out for betrayal, etc. She didn't consider that breaking up with someone might make them not want you anymore. Incensed, ex-girlfriend stopped paying. At the time, I hadn't been keeping track and thought she owed me around £300. After she calmed down, she agreed to pay. A few days passed with no payment when I got a message from her mother claiming everything was paid and to stop asking her daughter for monies already paid to you. She went on to say that any further requests for money would be treated as harassment. At this point, I was irritated by the entitlement and rudeness of the pair and went back through my bank statements to check exactly how behind on payment she was. It turned out the shortfall was more than double what I initially thought. So I prepared a formal letter of demand for payment and posted it to ex-girlfriend's address. Several days later, I got a call from the police saying that a harassment report had been made against me. I explained the situation and the police confirmed that no harassment was made. I was surprised that ex-girlfriend would waste police time to try to get out of paying the debt and decided to take ProRevenge to obtain justice. I discovered that for the entire period of our tenancy, ex-girlfriend hadn't been paying council tax. Essentially, she hadn't told the council she lived there. I took it upon myself to inform the council that there was a second person living at the property avoiding tax. They were appreciative of this information and further appreciated me furnishing them with an up-to-date home address for the tax dodger ex-girlfriend. In parallel, I took ex-girlfriend to court over the unpaid rent and bills using the tenancy agreement we signed and got the majority of it back. TLDR, ex-girlfriend turned a £300 liability into a liability of around £2,000, all because she was too petty and entitled to pay her way in the first place. P.S. If you're with someone like this, don't be afraid to leave them. There are people out there that are a million times better for you. Edit. I'm a full-time student, thus I'm exempt from council tax. Edit 2. I was very stupid to stay in this situation, but that's rose-tinted glasses for you. Oh my god, OP, I'm so glad you got out of that. Oh, she is nasty. What a nasty bitch. Alright, my dudes, that's all the stories I had for you today. If you liked it, please consider giving it a like, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to be notified when I have future videos with content like this, so you don't miss one. As always, the links to the stories will be in the description, so head on over to Reddit and show those posters some love with some upvotes. And while you're there, don't forget to stop over at r/RedditFairy and submit your story there, because you never know, it just might show up in the next video. Until next time, keep it cool, my dudes.
Imagine, if you will, sitting down to your morning coffee, turning on your home computer to read the day's newspaper. Well, it's not as far-fetched as it may seem. In fact, both local San Francisco papers are investing a lot of money to try and get a service just like that started. Science editor Steve Newman reports on one person already using the brand new system.